has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was on a roll hitting bets like crazy. And then Sunday, I got like stuffed pigged. I lost everything. I lost 2 totals in the NBA faster than you could spit. And now you're telling me that every single game went under in the NBA on Sunday. I gave up after I lost so much money in college basketball. I had FAU, I had Creighton, 2 NBA totals I had over, both went under, and I was like, I'm done. I'm going to watch Wendy Williams go psycho. And I watched that with my wife. I've never seen anything more damning in my life than that 2-day video that somehow, I have to say this, Carver High, how in your right mind does your family agree to do that documentary and let them film her downfall and her alcoholism and her dementia and her weight loss and her elephantitis feet, showing her elephant feet and seeing her bug eyes? I mean, I have never in my life seen what kind of family signs away. Yes, come on in with your cameras and show everyone how beat up our mother is. And they all sat there and did interviews and let it happen. And there's nothing they can do about it. And it made her look like a complete whack job idiot, completely lost her mind, raging alcoholic, and she still thinks she's getting a television deal with NBC to go back on TV. She weighs about 3 pounds. She could blow away in the wind. And for 2 days, America got to watch her downfall. Whose bright idea was that? Here, let me sign the rights to watch her. The most damning thing I've ever seen anyone do to anyone in Hollywood ever, what they did to that woman for 2 days. Oh, my God. Did you watch it? I mean, it was insanity. I watched like 5 hours of it. I wanted to jump off a bridge. I was like, I can't take it anymore. Her showing her elephant feet to people and talking about going on NBC. I wanted to puke. Other than that,
I did not get to see that. I'm not going to lie to you. I did not get to see it.
Well, you missed it. It was gold.
It was. I was going to tell you first.
And everyone's stealing from her. Everyone's stealing from her. They stole billions from this chick. Everyone and their brother stole from her.
Coast to coast, Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Monday. SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM 159, Sports Byline. Great to have everybody with us. I was going to tell you that, yes, if you were an over better on Sunday in the NBA, it was a bad day for you because the under went 10-0-1 on Sunday. I mean, are you kidding me? How does that happen?
Well, it happens when everyone takes the day off.
It happens when everybody takes the day off. 10-0-1 to the under. I have for you 4 games tonight. So a very busy Sunday, very busy weekend, and now a light Monday night in the NBA to start our week off. We'll go to Indiana first, back-to-back for the Pacers, who, of course, beat the Mavs last night. They have the Raptors coming in, Scotty. This one right now, Pacers minus 5.5, 245.5 is the total. Looks like we're pretty good injury-wise on both squads.
I still got to go Indy here. What they did to Dallas at home, I think if they can handle Dallas, they'll handle Toronto. I'll lay the 5 and a hook.
Next for you, the Pistons are at the Garden against the Knicks. Knicks looking to get something going here. They're 11.5-point favorites at home, still missing a good portion of their front court. In fact, the entire thing with Randall and OG in the crew. 223.5 is the total here. The good thing for the Knicks is, Scotty, the Pistons suck.
Well, I made a lot of money on Saturday night betting on Boston against the Knicks, and you knew that was inevitable. Without Anunoby and Randall, the Knicks are nothing. But they're still 10.5 better than the Pistons. I bet it at 10.5 this morning on the Knicks. The Pistons are awful, even at 11.5. I think the Knicks roll the Pistons tonight at the Garden easily.
Next, the Nets are in Memphis, of course. They went on the road. They were in Minnie over the weekend. Now they are in Memphis against the Grizzlies. Nets minus 1.5, 214.5 is the total. I did see Simmons is questionable. He left the game the other night. We talk about him all the time, unfortunately. Grizzlies have a billion guys out for the Nets tonight.
Yeah, please spare me the Ben Simmons talk. Thanks. Here's the deal. I actually think the Nets, even Kevin Ollie, whatever, they're still, I think, in terms of overall players that can fill it up, are better than Memphis. I'll take them lay 1.5 on Beale Street over Memphis. Memphis to me is basically J. Jack Jr. That's it. Without Ja, all right, I'll give you Bane. I'll give you Bane with Jackson. The rest of that team is mustard.
And finally, the Heat are in Sacramento tonight. Of course, back-to-back for the Kings after they were in L.A. last night with a victory. Here's the deal for the Heat, though, Scotty. They are missing several guys. Jimmy Butler, we told you, is going to be suspended for tonight, along with Jovic and Bryant. Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier are both out tonight for the Heat. So they are bringing a skeleton crew into Sacramento. -7.5 for the Kings, 224.5 the total.
It should be the Kings. I don't want to do I really don't want to do they don't have one player playing, so bet on the Heat. I really don't want to go there when they literally have no one playing.
It is a thin lineup for Spoelstra tonight. I know the Kings are on a back-to-back, Scotty, but you would like to think they're going to be able to handle that at home at the Golden One there tonight. So,
it's not like
they're
old. They're not an old team.
No,
Back-to-back should be nothing.
They're a young team. And they're playing well right now, too. So that helps also. They're not on a slide. They're coming off a big win. They kicked their ass last night. Could be a very good spot for them there tonight. There you go. Your night in the NBA. 4 games. Let's go to the window and cash some tickets. All right, I got a lot of college rack for you, obviously, as we're getting there. Friday is March, Scotty. Are you ready? I mean, Friday's March. I mean, they've slipped us an extra day this year with February, but we still have March 1st coming up on Friday, which means it is time to get into tournament time, brackets, conference championship week around the corner. Who's going to make the tournament, first 4 in, first 4 out, etc. Let me give you a few things from the weekend, and then we'll do more after the break. St. John's beat Creighton 80-66. So I guess calling your players out and saying that they all suck works. I mean, they're 2-0 since Pitino did that. So I guess that works, Scotty, when you call the team out.
Yeah, look, I'm not giving them an NCAA tournament bid for the crappy season that they've had. I'm not giving them an NCAA tournament bid because they beat a Creighton team that was sleepwalking all day at the Garden. They did not show up to play basketball on Sunday. I have never seen Creighton look that bad in a game in the Big East. They lead the Big East offensively in every single category in basketball, and yet on Sunday against St. John's, they were the worst team I've seen play in the Big East all year. That was the most pathetic performance of turnovers and bricks and air balls and missed threes and just slacking, lazy, no defense, not getting back. Creighton took the day off. And I'll be honest with you, what I saw yesterday from them, they have no chance to win the NCAA tournament. Great teams don't play like that ever. They have no chance.
I agree with you. I would not be backing them either. All right, I got more from the weekend, and tonight we have 3 games in college. Do that next.
Though, because this team is hot garbage. I mean, poor Jacques Vaughn. Talk about just wrong place, wrong times.
I mean, the reason that they parted ways with Jacques Vaughn in the first place, this is a team that, yes, they had Kyrie and KD at the beginning of the year last year, but they were still a team that made the playoffs. They were still a team that took the game off the 76ers. And going into the All-Star break, they weren't even in the play-in picture.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Soriano doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
So I did hit that South Florida win in Tampa over SMU 79-67, and they got a piece of that American regular season title. They still got to win that conference title, I think, to, guarantee a bid. Like, you know how they are with these big Power Fives. They give all the big Power Five, 7, 8, 9 teams get in, and then when it comes down to small conferences, they screw everybody.
I think that South Florida, Scotty, has won 18 of their last 19 games. They're playing great basketball. They're going to win at least a share. They'll probably end up winning the whole thing in the American if they don't lose again, and somebody else does. But you're right. They always give them to the Power Five. So you're telling me that they lose a conference title game to the conference tournament game to FAU or something like that they're not worthy of being in a tournament? This is why this stuff is nonsense, to be quite honest with you. And that's with that conference, having FAU go to the Final Four last year. So that should be enough right there to give that conference a little bit of juice if they have a couple teams that are worthy. So I'm with you. They probably do have to go and win their conference tournament in order to get in, despite the great record that they have so far this year. They got that piece because FAU did lose yesterday to Memphis, 78-74. So a win for them there. Purdue beat Michigan 84-76. No cover there. As Zach Edey will not be back next year. Well, of course he won't. Not going back. You've said it a billion times. He's ready. Go play in the NBA. You've been dominating for 2-3 years now in college. Go in the NBA. Get ready. Let's go.
Yeah, and, yesterday, Michigan tried to play dirty with him. And he'll play any way you want. You want to play dirty? He'll play dirty. When he starts throwing his weight around and throwing his elbows around, you don't want to be in that area of that type of projectile. When he throws them hips and those arms around and starts throwing that 300 pounds around, he means business. And then the madder you get him, you poke the bear. He had 32 and 16. It's embarrassing. I know Michigan covered, but they still got their ass whooped.
Ohio State beat Michigan 60-57. So that guy that took over for Holtman, He's actually got a couple decent wins the last couple weeks. Beat Purdue last week, beat Michigan State this week, but they're not going anywhere. They don't matter. And Marquette beat Xavier by 24. Nice effort by Sean Miller and Xavier, who I heard you talking about in the Open. Real nice effort by him, losing by 24 to Marquette yesterday.
Yeah, first of all, I don't believe that Ohio State's going to give the interim guy the head job in Columbus. So he can win all he wants. They're still going to go for someone bigger, and that's all there is to it. That's what Ohio State does. And I don't think it should be Sean Miller. Again, I've heard his name mentioned, and Sean has not done anything, in my view, at Xavier like he did the first time. And we all know what he did at Arizona. The whole time he was there, he cheated, and to the highest level possible. So I think it's someone else entirely. And, I've done with Coach, we went through a litany of literally, in college basketball, there's the potential. I'm not even kidding, to have like 50 coaching changes in college basketball. It is legitimately like 50. There's like 50 jobs that are going to change names in college hoops. Count on it. And because there's a ton of programs, I could go on and on. Enfield, don't get me started. Jerry Stackhouse, they're all getting whacked. They just don't win, and they don't matter. And then all the hot names are going to move into those gigs.
They certainly are. A couple others from Saturday. Houston beat Baylor in overtime, 82-76. Houston's now number one in today's new top 25 on a Monday, so Houston is at the top. Yes.
Mike, listen, I don't know how many times I got to say this. All right, so they play a high post game where they bring the ball down on offense. Now, all I hear about is how they can't score and that they're never going to win anything because they can't score and they can't shoot and all the rest. But they play a high post offense where the guard comes down, he's looking for a screen, he'll either get it and roll or he will get a slip, and then it's a bounce pass into the high post. The high post player turns around and faces the low block, and he's got two guys and one defender. Baylor was playing a 1-3-1. It was embarrassing. And they turn around, and every single time they either lobbed it up for a dunk or bounce passed for a dunk to the guy on the wing. So they had a guy on the baseline coming in, cutting, and dunking, or they just had the guy at the rim dunking. So, it's funny. Everyone says they can't score. I said, well, they could sure dunk. And you know what they call dunks? They call dunks 100%. When you go up and throw it down, there is no missing bunnies. And talking about Houston not being able to score when they put 82 on your ass and beat you in overtime in your building, that's all I need to know. And I watched that high post offense of theirs with a pick and roll and the bounce passes and the lob dunks. Who cares if they can't shoot from outside if every other play is a dunk? And then they have the best defense, hands down, bar none, in America. If you put the ball on the deck against Houston, they're going to pick your pocket and sleep with your girlfriend. They are the fastest, most aggressive defense, in your face, up in your body and in your face, like they're having sex with you playing defense. That is the best defense I've seen in college basketball in 20 years. Their defense is sickening. You cannot dribble or you will lose the ball. You'll have 25 turnovers in a game against Houston.
They will. They did a tremendous job over the weekend in that one. Wake Forest beat Duke 83-79. Of course, this has been the talk of the weekend, and that was Filipowski getting hurt with the court storming after the game was over. All the Wake Forest kids, of course, go and celebrate beating Duke at home in Winston-Salem. Here is John Shire, Duke head coach, about the incident.
I'm more concerned about the well-being of our guys. Flip sprains his ankle. When are we going to ban court storming? When are we going to ban that? How many times does a player have to get into something where they get punched or they get pushed or they get taunted right in their face? And it's a dangerous thing.
Look, he did say repeatedly that Wake Forest is a really good team. They play great defense. They beat us. Silas is a badass. They got a great coach, great program, great team. They deserve a bid. They beat us fair and square. All hats off to them. But when my guy gets rolled up on in a court storm and they got to carry him off the court, they got a massive problem in college basketball. And let me tell you, the worst conference of all is the Big Ten. The Big Ten has the most pathetic policy in the history of college basketball. You know what their policy is? You have to do it 3 times before they fine you. Name one team that has 3 upsets on their home floor of a top 10 team in college basketball ever. No wonder nothing ever happens to anyone in the Big Ten, because no one ever has 3 upsets at home in the Big Ten in one season of a top 10 team. That's when you see court storming. And then, like, you know, certain conferences, 100,000. Some are 25,000. Some are a measly 5,000. That's like the dinner bill for the team when they go to the restaurant. College basketball has a massive problem. And I said this the other day, like, simple. If you storm the court, what they should do is catch as many of them as they can, because they can't catch them all. Just catch the ones you want and put them in jail and leave them in there for a couple of weeks, see how they like that. Because, you know, at the Garden, if you run on the court, you go to Rikers Island for a couple of weeks. And it always works. They don't have a problem at Madison Square Garden ever with this. You go on the court there, you're going to Rikers Island for 2 weeks, come out, you're gonna be called Sherry. When you get out of Rikers, your new name is Sherry. And when you went in, it was Chuck. Okay? So you got to handle it strong arm. And then, you know, they don't have security. In fact, the security, when the coach called the timeout to give him a chance to get him safely off the floor, because Wake called a timeout, the fat-ass security guards were running for the door. They were scared of the students, too. So when you got fat-ass old men that can't handle students, you're doomed to begin with. It was inevitable. It was going to happen.
It is amazing. Everywhere else, you can't do it, right? Every other sport, you can't run out on the floor. It's amazing how it continues to go on.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, you know, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as the unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, you know, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the Empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
And Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks. They are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. They're at 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The brighter the lights, the bigger the stakes. Hunt or be hunted. Know your prey. This is a whole new jungle. This is The Lion's Share. Brought to you by BetMGM.
BetMGM is incredible. You're going to love the app. Go get it at BetMGM.com or on iOS or Android, and then start up your new account with $5 and then place a $5 bet on anything, win or lose. You're going to get 150 in bonus bets with the simple bonus code of SG150. SG150 gets you 150 in bonus bets with a $5 bet on your new BetMGM mobile app. You're going to love the app. And then certainly once you get 150 in bonus bets, you're going to start playing on the BetMGM app moving forward every day, and there's no turning back. Check it out at BetMGM.com. The Lion's Share with Coach James Young, of course. You can catch us Saturday and Sunday at 1 to 3 on Betting Above the Rim. This upcoming weekend, I know it's only Monday, but you catch him here every day on Coast to Coast. What did you think when you saw every single game in the NBA go under on Sunday? Because I bet 2 overs and lost, and you knew I lost Creighton, you knew I lost FAU, and then you knew I lost my temper.
Yeah, and so did I, because a lot of those bets we were on together. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's just one of those things that happened. To me, it was more about some of the scores that came out, and particularly the Pacers blowing out the Mavericks, the Mavericks team that's been as hot as anybody in the NBA. A Lakers team that continues to be, that has just 2 superstars and really a bunch of G League guys, in my opinion. And really, maybe the biggest surprise of the night, Ice Tray goes out for 4 weeks. And then the Magic, who's as a covering machine, gets their doors blown off. That's a team that maybe showed a little bit of immaturity, that maybe rolled into a game for real that they thought they were going to win easily and didn't win. Along with, obviously, the Pelicans losing at home to a Bulls team. It's really going nowhere. It was a lot of interesting scores that came up in the last game. The Kings over the Clippers. I mean, you can go down the line. Forget the fact that the game's going under. Games just didn't make sense yesterday that went down in the NBA.
Well, they're good enough to beat the Clippers, and we all know. I said earlier on the show, the Clippers always fold up shop. All I hear about is their new building, their new clothes, their new unis, their new logo. But it's the same old story. In a big game, here they are, Sunday night on TV, and the Kings kick their ass. This is what happens to them in the playoffs, too, with regularity.
Yeah, and if you really look at it, if you take a look at some of the star players, particularly Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, they should have combined 2 for 13 from 3. I mean, that's just not acceptable. I know, obviously, no PG-13 in that game, but you got to get a better effort out of that. I know Mann played better. Norman Powell did what he had to do, but it's a team that just I feel like they're going to make a move and like in regards to they can make a run, but they give you clunkers like this. But they're another team that's no different than Phoenix. Folks, they got to have everybody there. I mean, let's be honest with the Clippers. They have to have everybody there. Because when you get these superstar teams, Ferrall, and you're missing a key part, like guys that have to step up their roles, and it messes with the whole chemistry. So when you look at PG-13 being out, I know obviously the Suns got to win, but they missed, they lost their first 2 coming out of break without Beale Street. So they got to start to get going, these teams, to get healthy. And that's the thing. We look at teams like Phoenix and the Clippers. Let's be honest, Ferrall, health is a concern because they have a propensity, these guys, to get injured and get injured at the wrong time.
You were right about Nebraska. Boy, did they kick Minnesota's ass. That's the first time Minnesota hasn't covered in a game against the spread in like the entire season.
Hey, listen, shout out to Freddie Hoiberg. I mean, let's give Freddie his flowers a little bit here because Freddie, if you guys remember, did an outstanding job at Iowa State. did an outstanding job with that program, went to the NBA. I think he went to, first was Minnesota, and then maybe Chicago, I'm not mistaken, and really just kind of flamed out a little bit. But it's found his home and his footing here at a Nebraska team that really, folks, they give people problems in their own arena. And at 20-8, folks, at 20-8, can we start talking about a team like Nebraska with a bid to the NCAA tournament? I don't know if they're there yet.
In.
They're in.
They'll be a 10 seed at least.
Right, and that's the thing. They're sitting in 5th place right now, ahead of Michigan State. And here's the thing, folks. I pray, I really pray, when this comes down to the tournament, we stop looking at names of coaches and we look at what teams have done. For instance, if they end right now, if they give a bid to Michigan State and don't give it to Nebraska, that's a problem, right? So I hope that the tournament selection committee starts looking at the resume of the team and not the resume of the coach's career and giving out bids. Because sometimes, Ferrall, it does get tricky.
So I earlier tried to put to rest the notion of this Houston Cougar team can't score. They moved to number 1 in the country today in the weekly AP poll. And you and I watched them with that high post ability to get dunks on the baseline and at the rim all day long in Waco on Saturday. Now they're number 1 again. When is the talk of them, they can't score, they have no offense, going to stop?
Well, you know what? It should stop, Ferrall, because it don't matter how much they score. They put you in jail. I mean, let's get going. They put you in jail. And that defense, we talked about it, you and I, on Saturday. The way that they don't play that drop coverage junk. They get up in your stuff and they defend you. And they take away your pick and roll. We talked about it on Saturday, how they would take away the roll with the weak side tagging and making you skip the ball across the floor. But here's the thing. If Jawan Roberts can be the threat he was, Ferrall, we talked about it, on the baseline and at the high post against that 1-3-1, when you got Cryer and you got Jamal Shed, you don't need a whole lot of anything else. Dunn will give you some stuff. Francis did some things around the basket. But listen, Ferrall, when it comes down to the NCAA tournament, it's about getting stops. And now everybody can put the rest, oh, they play in the American. Oh, they don't play anybody. Oh, they're not battle-tested. They're 11-3 in league. They had that one game against Kansas where Kansas shot the lights out, and they lost their first 2 games in league when they played absolutely atrocious and still almost came back and stole it. They are firmly the number 2 team in the country in regards to odds to win a national championship, and I firmly think we're getting close to a 1 and a 1A between UConn and Houston as the 2 best teams in college basketball. I think Purdue falls just short because of their inability to defend on the perimeter.
Yeah, Jerry Palm has Purdue as the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. Now, Baylor lost to Houston, and they got a big game tonight in Fort Worth against Jamie Dixon's Frogs, who you've been impressed with. We saw their big win at Kansas State on a last-second 3. This is a good team. This is a good game tonight, the best game of the night. I'm not buying that Miami-North Carolina game, not the way the Canes have been playing over the last month.
No, Miami's limping to the finish line, folks. They're done. They're injured, and we got to start. We talked about we got to start worrying about Jimmy Larinaga and how much longer he's got there. But when you look at this matchup tonight, you got a team in TCU, 12-2, and I love their hashtag that they have on social media. Defend Fort Dixon. They defend at home. I know they're 8-6 in league. I'm worried that Baylor comeback and losing that game at home took so much out of them. 1 day prep for Jamie Dixon. I love the Horned Frogs on the money line tonight at home.
All right, let's look at your top plays for tonight, and we'll start with that Knicks game with Detroit and the world's most famous.
I'm going to go with the Knicks team total over 117.5 at minus 125 at BetMGM, or minus 120. You say, why? This is a Knicks team that hasn't hit this in 6 straight. But 118 last game versus Detroit, which is in November, they're way better. And Detroit is just terrible defensively. Knicks start to get rolling. Their schedule's easing up. After they lost at Boston, they blow them out. Give me the Knicks team total over 117.5.
The next one you're playing is with Duran.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jalen Duran over 10.5 rebounds at minus 135, averaging 12 rebounds per game. 12 last game versus the Knicks, over 9 of his last 14 games. This kid is a rebounding machine. Here's the key with Jalen Duran. When he gets minutes, he gets boards. Hartenstein is not the type of post that should get him in foul trouble, so he should be in the game. Jalen Duran over 10.5 rebounds.
How about your boy R.J. Barrett, the old Nick?
I mean, I'm just keeping it in the family. Let's go to R.J. Barrett. Over 20.5 points for Toronto tonight in this game versus Indiana. 8 out of the last 13. 3 out of 4 versus the Pacers. What is this, Ferrall? High pace. They don't have a real good defensive stopper. I don't count Benedict Mathurin or any of those guys on perimeter-wise for Indiana. RJ's going to cook. RJ Barrett over 20.5 points.
And then finally, Mikal Bridges. You got some action going on a net game tonight.
I don't know why I'm doing it. It's the only action that's going to happen with the Nets because the team stinks. But over 20.5 points for Mikal. I think they're going to win too because Memphis is horrible. Over 10 of his last 15 games, 24 in his last game versus Memphis. This is a poor defensive team playing a lot of young guys. You know what happens, Ferrall? When young guys play, they don't defend. Mikal Bridges over 20.5 points tonight.
Yeah, so, and Miami's so thin. Who do you like in that game in Sacramento? Will the Kings cover the 7 and a hook?
I'm going to go with Miami plus the points here. I think they keep it close. It's a back-to-back. Maybe there's a little bit of a letdown spot. Miami as underdogs. Don't cut out Spoelstra. I'm going to take the points.
They have no one playing.
And listen, I know, but if there's a team that can cover with no one playing, it's Spo.
Whoa, listen to Coach. All right, Coach, great stuff. We'll see you tomorrow, buddy.
The Lion's Share, presented by BetMGM.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Soriano doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan.
The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, Davis Lee Roth-Matic from Fantasy Sports Today joins us every day on Coast to Coast. You can catch him on Fantasy Sports Today on Saturdays at 7 a.m. Eastern with Scoop Mish. He's in St. Louis. And I want to start with today the Dodgers moves. They kept Kiki and they traded Margot to the Twins.
They did trade Manuel Margot to the Twins in order to get Noah Miller and some cash. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to keep it a true buck with you. I can't give you that many opinions about Noah Miller. What I can tell you, though, is that one Mr. Enrique Hernandez has basically been exactly what the Dodgers have needed him every time they have ever called upon him in his career. Obviously, he's been out in the wilderness. He left. He went to the Red Sox. He played for the Marlins before. But he is just like a really good utility player. I mean, is this a Hall of Fame guy? Is this a guy who fans are going to remember, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Probably not. But he plays like all the middle infield positions. He can play both of the corner outfield spots. Like, this is just the type of stuff that, like, why is Enrique Hernandez? Why is he on the Dodgers? Why would the Padres not sign him? Why would the Red Sox not retain him? It doesn't really make sense to me.
So, do you remember Jose De Leon, or are you too young? He died down in the DR, and he pitched in St. Louis forever.
I got to be honest with you, man. I don't. That one is if it's before like 2005 and they weren't a Kansas City Royal, I probably don't know them.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. He led the National League in strikeouts in 1989. He's gone at 63 years old. So Ohtani will make his spring debut tomorrow as a DH. That place will go crazy for him. They look so good already, watching them kick the Padres' ass back-to-back games. It was like I was watching a team that, they're not going to lose many games. I mean, we're talking, they may win 112, 115 games. Seriously, it's no joke.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here. You are definitely correct. Like, one, they have this crazy rotation. Bobby Miller, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Sheehan. We'll see what ends up happening with all of the, how much are they going to get out of Buehler? How much are they going to get out of Gonsolin? When is Clayton Kershaw going to show up? There's a lot of that going on for them. But the one thing I am wondering is they're a little shallow on the bench, don't you think? Like they're a little shallow in terms of their bench hitters. So if they were to sustain, multiple injuries in the lineup, I could maybe see them winning 96 games, instead of 110.
So when you were skiing in Bend, Oregon, did you let your hair go like that picture we just saw of you, or do you pull it back and ponytail it like you do to try to look clean and tight on SportsGrid? Because when you let it go, you look more like David Lee Roth-Matic, and you look more like, Megadeth, more Metallica, more rock and roll than the clean and tight Davis Matic. I mean, what did you do on the slopes? Did you go all full on, just let it go?
Full on, let it go. I didn't shave. I was crashing on my brother-in-law's couch, so I was like, the hair was out. I'm not even wearing a hat on the mountain, because it's about 55 degrees up there. We were there, for just an absolute bluebird, Scotty. It was super nice out. So I was letting it flow, letting my hair go in the wind. I did feel like Davis Lee Roth up there, honestly.
So what did you think of the Cubs finally coming to their senses and giving Bellinger $80 million?
Well, I think it's a pretty good deal for the Cubs. I'm wondering what the incentive and why Bellinger and his representation agreed to this contract, because it really just sets him up to do the same thing the next offseason, because it's got an opt-out after this year and the year after that. So it's basically just like a sequence of 1-year deals that he can, I guess, maybe if he has a bad season, gets injured, tears his ACL, something like that, then he can just opt in to that contract. But I felt like after the performance that he got last year, felt like one of these money bags teams, right? Mets, Rangers, maybe even the Padres, if they decide to go back and start spending again after letting the payroll go. I probably would have paid Bellinger whatever his representation was asking for 4 years, 5 years. Now, there's a school of thought out there that he kind of got lucky last year. He was still striking out a ton. He'd be very prone to going back into the slumps that ended his Dodgers career. I don't know how much I buy that. Probably a good move for both parties, right? Probably a good move for the Cubs, and probably is going to end up working out fine for Bellinger because he's going to make his money.
So how do you think baseball can fix free agency?
So the first idea that people have thrown out there that I think is probably bad is a free agency deadline, where it kind of works like kind of how the NBA stuff does, in the sense that it's all worked out by the time free agency actually opens for the NBA. Like, we start getting, Woj and Shams, they start tweeting out the deals like exactly at midnight, right? And that works out pretty well for NBA. I don't think it definitely just cannot work the same for baseball because of the way that they have the winter meetings structured. I wonder if maybe the solution is, and they would never go for this, but would be limiting how many guys can be represented by one agent or one agency. That feels like the biggest limiting factor to me, is just how much Scott Boras has his hand and everything. And, it's a free labor market, so it would never happen. But it's clearly an issue. I mean, it's February 26th. Blake Snell is not on a team. Matt Chapman is not on a team. We're getting reports that Jordan Montgomery is having Zoom calls with the Boston Red Sox, not that he's pitching for the Boston Red Sox at spring training. The best idea that I could come up with was actually probably eliminating the winter meetings, where you do not even have it it's against the rules to be contacting guys' representation until January 5th or whatever.
How stupid are the Red Sox to not just give Montgomery a deal now? Like, what more do you have to see from the kid of what he's done with the Yankees and what he did in Arlington? And he's got a ring now. He knows how to win a chip. And Boston has nothing. Like, what are they doing? Like, are they idiots?
Well, I mean, look, you know that I actually do pretty hardcore believe that the Boston Red Sox are idiots and that they don't really run their organization the right way, considering the infinite resources that they have as one of the largest, sporting brands in the United States. And their rotation, I mean, you're right, it is a mess. Giolito is the best guy they've got. They have, they're going to be counting on Nick Pivetta. Yeah, I probably actually have lost a ton of money continually betting on Giolito last year. But like the bottom of their rotation, Nick Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, Garrett Whitlock, these are all guys who are going to get, Jordan Montgomery would immediately be the best starting pitcher on that roster. And maybe they just don't want to spend money on this team. Like maybe the ownership group is like, you know what? 1 through 25, we just don't even think that this group of guys has it. So let's just not spend the money. But it also feels like, shouldn't Jordan Montgomery just want to go get, and that, like, it's pretty late in the day, man. Like, sign a contract.
I just cannot fathom in a baseball city like Boston that they're going to tolerate this, that they're going to actually roll out a minor league team for Fenway to fill up every game. To watch a hack team is beyond reproach to me. It really is. Like the Yankees, I don't care what anybody says, they got Soto, and just watching him hammering home runs already. And then today he shot one off the wall that drove in 2 runs, and then he took the rest of the day off. I mean, that guy in the batter's box, when he is swinging away at that short porch in Yankee Stadium, you got to be kidding me. And then they say he's one and done. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to walk. After he sees how many home runs he can hit in that little sandbox, I don't think he's going to leave the Bronx. I really don't. I think he'll sign a deal with the Yankees and stay there.
I think he'll probably sign a deal too. One, because Juan Soto is just like an unbelievably good baseball player. He's still like the dude just turned 25. I feel like he's been in Major League Baseball for so long that we kind of think of him as like this veteran. I mean, he's not even at peak age for a Major League Baseball player yet. Peak ages for baseball players are like 27, 28. And the Yankees are also definitely one of these organizations that they have given out plenty of contracts to outfielders worse than him. I mean, they can definitely afford it. They're, with the Yankees are one of the teams that don't have to worry about going over the salary cap of baseball and what that revenue sharing agreement would mean for them because, again, they own their own TV station. Like, they are exempt from some of the financial concerns of other teams in Major League Baseball. So I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're 100% right.
Can you believe this guy, Cohen, isn't giving the money to Pete Alonso? What is he thinking?
I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to me why he would not, because wasn't that supposed to be the entire deal? Why people were, so excited about Cohen owning the team,
right,
about all of these things. And maybe you could say this, maybe he, Cohen, he's a businessman, right? That's his thing. So maybe he's really trying to play hardball with Scott Boras and he doesn't want Boras to get one over on him at the negotiating table or whatever. Like, I think there's probably a little bit of ego involved there, but I also don't care. Because what are the Mets without Pete Alonso? Like, what does that lineup look like without Pete Alonso?
Like trash is what it looks like. How about you picking golf winners on the DP World Tour? Weren't you on with Carver High picking the winners in the Kenya Open? What is happening? What do you got? Some magical gemstone?
I did want to mention this before we got out of here on this Monday, but we bet the magical Kenya Open last week is the first time that Darius Von Dryel has ever won a European Tour event. He shot a 65 on the first day of the tournament, wire to wire, led it the entire way. Let me tell you something, Scotty. Skiing feels pretty good. Hitting nice little first touchdown bet feels pretty good. But hitting a long shot, European Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, LPGA bet, I mean, there's not really much better in this life than hitting a long shot, minor tour golf bet.
It has to feel a lot better than your ass after falling on it all day in Bend, Oregon, while skiing on ice over the weekend. Are you taking a bet in the Raptors-Pacers game tonight in Indianapolis?
I am. I just was handicapping these things a little bit this morning, and I just thought that 245.5 for Raptors-Pacers is just a bit too rich. The Pacers are one of the fastest teams in the NBA. They have one of the leakiest defenses in the NBA. But even after all the transactions and trades, the Raptors continue to be, they are so slow. They are so pondering on offense with Scotty Barnes bringing up the ball. So we are going to take the under on 245.5 between the Raptors and the Pacers tonight.
That might hit. They couldn't even go over the rainbow against Dallas, and they kicked their ass and put 133 on them, but Dallas couldn't score in that game. And 10-0-1 unders in the NBA yesterday. That is crazy. You're probably right about that game. Well, we're glad you're back in one piece from skiing. There's tons of baseball going on. We'll talk to you all week long. Thanks, Davis. We'll see you tomorrow on Coast to Coast.
Though, because this team is hot garbage. Poor Jacques Vaughn. Talk about just wrong place, wrong times.
The reason that they parted ways with Jacques Vaughn in the first place, this is a team that, yes, they had Kyrie and KD at the beginning of the year last year, but they were still a team that made the playoffs. They were still a team that took the game off the 76ers. And going into the All-Star break, they weren't even in the play-in picture.
Newswire. only on SportsGrid.
We just watched the final seconds of Illinois and Penn State, and by Dave's reaction, you think you know what happened there. How about that, Dave? How about that?
We're off the rundown. Sorry. Storm the court. You beat the 12th team in the country. That's fine. Second best in the Big Ten. That's fine. We are Penn State. Look at the crew jumping. This is so much fun.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Soriano doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's time for Today in Carver High history.
Why don't we start today in 1961? Marvin Panch wins the Daytona 500, and this happened because Fireball Richards, what a name. Car suffered a blown engine with 13 laps remaining. What a drag. 1967, Mario Andretti, more of a household name, wins his first and only NASCAR Grand National event when he wins the Daytona 500. It's the only time a driver born outside the U.S. has ever won the race. 1981. Now this is what we like to call old-time hockey. 84 penalties, 406 minutes worth assessed for multiple brawls between the Minnesota North Stars and the Boston Bruins. 13 fights, 13 game misconducts, among others. We even have audio of this.
Center ice stop and a fight right off. Casper pounding away, and that looks like Bobby Smith.
Crowder and Payne going at it. Now the linesman trying to break them up. As this is early in the hockey game, 7 seconds into the hockey game.
Mike Gillis may go. With Hartsburg, Mike Gillis and Hartsburg.
And Ray Newell draws out the piece of paper and the pencil, but the pencil doesn't seem to want to work. He was trying to write some numbers down. And it goes without saying that he might have lost control of this game, at least at this moment.
You think?
You think he lost control of the game? Most penalized game in NHL history. 87, Jordan sets a Bulls record when he dropped 58 in a game. He would end up passing that several times. 1989, Dallas Cowboys fired Tom Landry after a 29-year career Landry out. Jimmy Johnson would end up being in. 98, Steven Gluckstern completes his purchase of the New York Islanders. We called them on Long Island, Scotty, him and his partners, the pigs at the trough, as they would be out. A few years later, Gluckstern. We didn't like him at all.